Welcome to our deep dive, into ancient Greece and Rome. It's going to be an exciting one. You're looking for a solid overview of these civilizations, their key innovations and the individuals who shaped them. And you've given us a really great mix of sources from academic outlines to articles on inventions, perfect for like a multifaceted exploration. So let's uncover some surprising facts and connections that reveal like the lasting impact of these ancient cultures.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of dig into these fascinating civilizations and it's just amazing how much they accomplish and how much their influence continues, to resonate today.
Yeah, it really is. Let's start with ancient Greece, often called the cradle of Western civilization. It's mind-blowing that their civilization ended in 146 BC when the Romans conquered them, yet their legacy is still so strong. We're talking over 2,100 years of continuous influence. To really graph this, we have an article called 10 Key Inventions and Innovations of Ancient Greece. What jumps out at you from this list?
Well, it's hard to overstate the impact of Athenian democracy. Um, you know, it wasn't a perfect system. Women and slaves were excluded, but the core idea of citizens having a direct say in their government was revolutionary. To understand its significance, we need to look at the context. Before Cleisthenes, Athenian politics was often chaotic, with powerful elites vying for control. His reforms, implemented around 508 to 507 BC, aimed to create a more stable and equitable system.
So Cleisthenes wasn't just creating a new form of government, he was addressing specific problems in Athenian society. What were some of the key elements of his reforms that made Athenian democracies so groundbreaking?
Two central features stand out. The first is sortition, where citizens were randomly selected for government roles. This prevented power from being concentrated in the hands of a few and encouraged broader participation. The second was the legislative assembly, where all citizens could vote on laws and policies. This gave ordinary people a direct voice in shaping their society.
It's fascinating to see how those ideas, though imperfect in their initial implementation, have influenced democratic systems throughout history and continue to inspire us today. And speaking of ideas that have shaped the world, let's talk about philosophy. Ancient Greece is practically synonymous with philosophical inquiry, isn't it?
Absolutely, from the pre-Socratics like Thales and Pythagoras, who focused on natural philosophy and laid the groundwork for scientific thought, to the giants of the classical period, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. The Greeks were asking the big questions about existence, knowledge, morality, and the nature of reality. What's remarkable is that their ideas debated centuries ago are still relevant to how we approach knowledge ethics and even politics today.
Yeah, it makes you realize that some human questions are truly timeless, doesn't it? It's like we're still grappling with the same fundamental issues that the ancient Greeks were wrestling with. Now let's shift gears to a field where the Greeks made incredible strides. Geometry. I know they weren't the first to use it, but they took it to a whole new level, right?
You're right. Civilizations like the Egyptians and Babylonians used geometry for practical purposes, like surveying land or constructing buildings. But the Greeks, through figures like Thales, Euclid, Pythagoras, and Archimedes, transformed it into a rigorous system based on logical reasoning and mathematical proofs. They weren't just solving problems, they were establishing a framework for understanding the fundamental principles of space and shape.
It's amazing how they took something practical and turned it into an abstract system of thought that's still the foundation of geometry today. It reminds me of how they approached map-making or cartography. I find it fascinating that defining the earliest map is so tricky. Where do you draw the line between a simple illustration and a true map?
It's a great question. We do have the Babylonian map of the world, created between 700 and 500 BC, which is considered one of the oldest surviving maps. But as you said, it lacks detail and accuracy. What sets the Greeks apart is their use of mathematics to create more precise representations of the world. Thinkers like Anaximander, who created what's considered the first true world map around 610 to 546 BC, and Eratosthenes, who was the first to prove that the Earth is spherical, revolutionized our understanding of the planet's shape and size.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that they figured that out so long ago without the tools and technology we have today. They were real pioneers. Now, speaking of pioneers, let's talk about something a bit more practical, the odometer. I can't imagine modern life without it.
It's one of those inventions that seems so simple, yet has had a profound impact on our lives. Imagine planning a road trip or navigating a city without knowing how far you've traveled. The odometer revolutionized travel and urban planning, allowing for more accurate distance measurement and facilitating trade communication and exploration.
Yeah, it's funny how we take these everyday conveniences for granted, isn't it? We rarely stop to think about the ingenuity behind them. Who do we have to thank for this invention?
Well, there's some debate surrounding its origin. Both Archimedes and Heron of Alexandria are credited with its development. Regardless, what's clear is that the odometer emerged during the late Hellenistic period, a time of great intellectual and technological ferment.
It's amazing how they were constantly innovating and building on each other's ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about a technology that harnessed the power of nature to make their lives easier. The watermill. What can you tell us about its significance?
The watermill is a perfect example of Greek ingenuity and their ability to leverage natural resources to improve their lives. Not only did they invent the water wheel itself, but they also developed the toothed gearing system that made it work. This ingenious combination allowed them to automate tasks like grinding wheat, cutting stones, and extracting water, ultimately boosting productivity and freeing up human labor for other pursuits.
Yeah, it's fascinating how they were already thinking about automation and finding ways to make work more efficient. When did this innovation emerge?
The watermill is believed to have originated around 300 BC in Byzantium. Engineer Philo's Pneumatics provides detailed descriptions of watermills, but there's debate over whether he invented them or simply documented the work of others. Regardless, it's a testament to their engineering skills and their understanding of how to harness the power of water.
It's like they were laying the groundwork for the Industrial Revolution centuries ahead of time. And speaking of adapting existing technologies, let's talk about the crane. It's another example of how the Greeks took an existing idea and transformed it into something even more powerful.
The crane is a great example of their practical ingenuity. They took the Mesopotamian shadoof used for irrigation and scaled it up, creating a larger, more robust version capable of lifting heavy objects. By 515 BC, they were using cranes to move massive stone blocks for their impressive buildings. It's amazing to think that this basic technology developed thousands of years ago is still a cornerstone of the construction industry today.
It really speaks to the enduring practicality of their designs, doesn't it? They were solving problems that we still grapple with today, and their solutions have stood the test of time.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that innovation often involves adapting and improving upon existing ideas, and the Greeks were masters of this process.
Now let's talk about a field that's always captured my imagination, medicine. And we have Hippocrates to thank for so much of what we know today. He truly revolutionized the field, didn't he?
Hippocrates, born in 460 BC, is hailed as the father of modern medicine for a reason. He shifted the focus from superstition and divine intervention to observation, documentation, and clinical trials, laying the foundation for a more scientific approach to healing. Instead of attributing illness to the wrath of the gods, he emphasized the importance of understanding the natural causes of disease and developing treatments based on careful observation and experimentation.
It's a radical shift in thinking, and it's had an immeasurable impact on the development of medicine. And his influence extends beyond specific treatments, right?
Absolutely. The Hippocratic Oath, though updated over time, still serves as a guiding principle for physicians, emphasizing ethical conduct, patient confidentiality, and the importance of using medical knowledge for the benefit of humanity. It's a testament to the enduring legacy of Hippocrates and his vision for a more humane and ethical approach to medicine.
Okay, let's move on to something we all love to hate, the alarm clock. Can you imagine a world without them?
It's hard to imagine waking up on time without that insistent buzzing or ringing, isn't it? We can trace the origins of the alarm clock back to the ingenious Ctesibius, known as the father of pneumatics, who flourished in the 3rd century BC.
Oh, I've heard of Ctesibius. He was a brilliant inventor, but
Yeah.
I always associate him with water clocks, not alarm clocks. How did he bridge that gap?
He was a master of manipulating water and air to create ingenious devices. He took his highly accurate water clock, known as a clepsydra, and modified it to include a clever mechanism. At a preset time, pebbles would drop onto a gong, creating an alarm. He even developed a more elaborate version where water pressure triggered loud whistles, ensuring no one overslept.
So even in ancient Greece, they needed a little help waking up on time. It's reassuring to know that some things never change. Now let's end our exploration of Greek innovation with something that's always fascinated me, theater. It's incredible how their love for storytelling and performance has shaped entertainment for centuries.
The ancient Greeks' contribution to theater is undeniable. Their value for the spoken word, their rituals involving masks and costumes, and their love of communal gatherings all contributed to the emergence of theater as a central part of their culture. What's remarkable is that they didn't just create theater, they created the genres we still see today. Tragedy, comedy, and satyr plays. These forms, originating in Athens and spreading throughout the Greek world, laid the groundwork for the theatrical conventions, themes, and character archetypes that continue to resonate with audiences today.
It's mind-boggling to think that those ancient stories, those timeless themes of love loss and the human condition are still captivating us thousands of years later. And it wasn't just about the stories, right? The Greeks also revolutionized the theatrical experience itself.
You're absolutely right. They built massive, open-air theaters capable of holding thousands of spectators, creating a truly communal experience. These architectural marvels, with their innovative acoustics and their impressive scale, served as prototypes for the entertainment venues and sports stadiums we see today.
It's like they invented the concept of a night out as we know it. So we've covered 10 incredible innovations from ancient Greece, but I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
You're right, and thankfully we have another article titled Eight Inventions We Owe to the Ancients to delve into even more groundbreaking creations from both Greece and Rome.
Perfect. Let's see what other treasures these ancient civilizations have in store for us.
I'm ready for more surprises, starting with something we use every day often without a second thought: paper. It's amazing to think that paper has existed for thousands of years.
I know, it's such a fundamental part of our lives. We write on it, print on it, package things with it. It's hard to imagine a world without it. But where did this remarkable material originate?
We have to travel back to ancient Egypt around 3000 BC to witness the birth of paper. They developed a technique for making paper from papyrus plants abundant along the Nile River. They would weave long strips of papyrus together, press them to form a thin sheet, and then allow it to dry.
It sounds like a simple process, but I imagine it required a lot of skill and precision.
It did. And what's even more remarkable is that many of these papyrus sheets containing Egyptian hieroglyphs are still readable today. That's over 5,000 years of preservation. It's a testament to their craftsmanship and the enduring nature of this material.
It's truly mind-blowing. Those ancient scribes were creating records that would outlast their civilization by millennia. And speaking of enduring legacies, let's talk about something a bit more glamorous: eye makeup. I bet most people don't realize that this beauty staple has such ancient roots.
You're right. We often think of makeup as a modern invention, but the ancient Egyptians were already experimenting with cosmetics thousands of years ago. Around 4000 BC, they developed kohl eyeliner by mixing soot with galena, a mineral with a dark metallic sheen. For green eye makeup, they used malachite, a vibrant green mineral.
So they were already creating different looks and experimenting with colors. What was the cultural significance of eye makeup in ancient Egypt? Was it purely for aesthetics?
While aesthetics certainly played a role, eye makeup held deeper cultural and spiritual significance for the ancient Egyptians. Both men and women wore kohl, believing it had healing properties and could ward off the evil eye. It was also associated with protection from the harsh desert sun and even used in religious ceremonies.
It's fascinating how something as seemingly simple as eye makeup can be so deeply intertwined with cultural beliefs and practices. It speaks to the enduring power of self-expression and the human desire to adorn and enhance our appearance. And speaking of things that have endured for centuries, let's revisit the concept of democracy. We talked about its origins in Athens, but it's important to remember that the concept of rule by the people has resonated far beyond ancient Greece.
Absolutely. The word democracy comes from the Greek demokratia, meaning rule by the people. It's a concept that has evolved and been interpreted in various ways throughout history. While the Athenian model implemented by Cleisthenes in 507 BC was groundbreaking, it's important to acknowledge its limitations. Only male citizens over 18 could participate, excluding a significant portion of the population. And even Athenian democracy experienced periods of decline, such as the rise of an aristocracy under Pericles around 460 BC.
So it wasn't a perfect system, but it laid the groundwork for democratic principles that have influenced governments around the world. What were some of the key institutions that shaped Athenian democracy, and how did they function?
Athenian democracy was structured around three main institutions: the ecclesia, the bullae, and the dicasteria. The ecclesia, or assembly, was the main legislative body where citizens could propose laws, debate issues, and vote on policies. The Bull, or Council of 500, was a smaller, randomly selected group of citizens who set the agenda for the assembly and oversaw day-to-day government operations. Finally, the dicasteria, or court system, was composed of citizens chosen by lot who served as jurors and judges, ensuring that legal matters were decided by the people.
It's incredible how they created a system that distributed power among different branches of government and emphasized citizen participation. It's a model that in various forms has inspired democratic movements throughout history. Okay, let's shift gears to something a bit more athletic: the marathon. I love how this modern sporting event is so deeply rooted in ancient Greece. Tell me, is the story about the Greek soldier running from Marathon to Athens to announce victory really true?
It's a story that's often told, but it's actually a bit more complicated than that. The story of the soldier running from Marathon to Athens after the Greek victory over the Persians in 490 BC is often confused with the tale of Pheidippides.
Ah, Pheidippides. He's the one who ran from Athens to Sparta to seek their aid against the Persians, right?
Exactly. He ran an incredible distance, about 150 miles, but sadly the Spartans were unable to help due to a religious festival, and by the time they could mobilize, the Battle of Marathon was already over.
That's tragic. But it's amazing how his incredible run has inspired the modern marathon.
It has. The first modern marathon, held in Athens in 1896 as part of the revived Olympic Games, was a direct tribute to Pheidippides' legendary feat. And fittingly, the winner of that first modern marathon was a Greek runner named Spiridon Louis.
What a perfect full circle moment.
Mm.
Okay, let's talk about an invention that might surprise our listeners. Concrete. I had no idea it was an ancient invention.
You're not alone. Most people associate concrete with modern construction, but the Romans, those master builders, were already using concrete over 2,100 years ago. Roman concrete, known as opus caementitium, was a groundbreaking material that revolutionized architecture and engineering, enabling them to construct massive and durable structures like the Pantheon and the Colosseum.
Wow, those structures have stood the test of time. What was their secret? How did they make concrete so long ago?
They combined limestone with volcanic ash, which acted as a natural cement to create a mortar. They then packed this mortar with chunks of brick rubble or volcanic tuff. This combination resulted in a remarkably strong and durable material that could withstand the elements for centuries.
It's fascinating how they used locally sourced materials and ingenuity to create a building material that's still relevant today. How does Roman concrete compare to modern concrete?
While Roman concrete is weaker in compressive strength than modern cement, it possesses incredible durability and resilience. Many Roman structures exposed to the elements for centuries are still standing strong, showcasing the longevity of their concrete.
It makes you wonder if we've lost something in our pursuit of ever stronger materials, hasn't it? Maybe there's something to be said for the durability and sustainability of ancient building techniques.
It's definitely something to consider. The Romans were masters of using readily available resources and adapting their techniques to the local environment. Their approach to building could offer valuable insights for modern construction practices.
Okay, let's move on to something near and dear to my heart. Newspapers. Can you imagine a world without them? It's incredible to think that the Romans had their own version of a daily news publication.
It is. While it might not have been printed on paper as we know it, the acta diurna, meaning daily acts, served a similar purpose in ancient Rome. First appearing around 131 BC, it acted as a public record of significant events, from political happenings and military victories to births, deaths, and even gladiatorial contests.
So it was like a public bulletin board where people could catch up on current events. How did they disseminate the news? Did they have newsboys hawking the latest edition on street corners?
Not quite. Instead of printed newspapers, the Acta Diurna was inscribed on metal or stone and posted in prominent public areas like the Roman Forum, where people gathered to discuss news and conduct business.
It's amazing to imagine people gathering around these public notices, discussing the latest headlines and sharing their opinions. It's like the ancient Roman version of social media.
It was a way for people to stay connected and informed about the events shaping their world. And it wasn't just the Acta Diurna. They also had the Acta Senatus, which chronicled the proceedings of the Roman Senate. This official record, started during Julius Caesar's first consulship, provided transparency and accountability, allowing citizens to keep track of their government's actions.
So they were already thinking about the importance of an informed citizenry and government transparency. It's fascinating to see these early forms of journalism and public record-keeping taking shape. Okay, let's talk about something that always makes me happy, chocolate. I was shocked to learn that this beloved treat has ancient origins.
Chocolate has a long and fascinating history that stretches back over 3,000 years to the ancient civilizations of Mesoamerica. The Maya, Aztec, and Toltec people cultivated the cacao tree and used its beans to create a frothy beverage that was a far cry from the sweet chocolate bars we enjoy today.
So no milk chocolate or sugary treats back then.
Not quite. They saw chocolate as an energy drink, a mood enhancer, and even an aphrodisiac. It was often consumed during rituals and ceremonies and was considered a sacred drink.
Wow, it's a very different way of thinking about chocolate.
Yeah.
What made cacao so special to these civilizations?
The cacao tree was considered sacred to the Maya, and the beans were so valuable that they were used as currency.
It's amazing to think that something we consider a treat today was once a form of money.
It's like the ancient world's version of Bitcoin. So how did this Mesoamerican beverage become the global phenomenon we know and love today?
That transformation occurred in the 16th century when Spanish conquistadors encountered chocolate in the Americas. They brought it back to Europe, where it was initially met with skepticism, but eventually gained popularity. Over time, it evolved from a bitter, spicy drink to the sweet, creamy treat we know today.
It's a reminder that food and cultural tastes are constantly evolving, and sometimes the most unlikely ingredients can become global sensations. Absolutely. And speaking of concepts that have had a global impact, let's talk about the concept of zero, a seemingly simple idea that revolutionized mathematics. It's hard to imagine doing math without it, yet its development was a long and complex journey.
You're right. It seems so fundamental, yet it took centuries for the concept of zero to be fully developed and integrated into mathematical systems. Where did this journey begin?
The journey towards zero can be traced back to the ancient Babylonians who, after 300 BC, were using a zero-like symbol as a placeholder in their numerical system. It's fascinating that around the same time, half a world away in Mesoamerica, the Maya independently developed the concept of zero as a placeholder, incorporating it into their sophisticated calendar systems.
So two different cultures on opposite sides of the globe were grappling with the same mathematical concept. It speaks to the universality of mathematical principles, doesn't it?
It does. It highlights the human capacity for abstract thought and the drive to create systems for understanding and quantifying the world around us. However, neither the Babylonians nor the Maya truly saw zero as a number in itself or used it in equations.
So they recognized its importance as a placeholder, but they hadn't fully grasped its potential as a numerical concept, who finally unlocked the full power of zero.
That honor goes to the Indian astronomer Brahmagupta, who lived in the 7th century AD. He was the first to define zero as a number and to establish rules for its use in mathematical operations. His work was groundbreaking, paving the way for the development of algebra and the advanced mathematical systems we use today.
It's credible to think that something so seemingly simple took centuries to fully develop, and that it was the work of brilliant minds across different cultures that brought us this fundamental concept.
It's a reminder that scientific and mathematical advancements are often collaborative efforts, building on the insights and discoveries of those who came before. And speaking of advancements, we have even more to uncover about the innovations of ancient Greece. Their creativity and ingenuity extended far beyond what we've discussed so far.
I'm ready to dive back into the world of ancient Greece. What other fascinating innovations did they contribute to human history?
Let's start with something we see everywhere in architecture today: columns. Those elegant, towering structures that adorn buildings around the world have their roots in ancient Greece.
Okay, so when I think of Greek columns, I picture those grand, ornate structures with intricate carvings. But I know there's more to it than just aesthetics. What were the different types of Greek columns, and how did they function structurally?
The Greeks developed three main orders of columns: Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian. Each order had its distinct features and proportions. The Doric, the oldest and simplest order, is characterized by its plain, sturdy capital and fluted shaft. The Ionic, known for its elegant volutes or spiral scrolls at the top of the column, is more ornate than the Doric. Finally, the Corinthian, the most elaborate of the three features, a capital adorned with acanthus leaves.
It's fascinating how they developed a system of architectural design that combined both form and function. Their columns weren't just decorative. They played a crucial role in supporting the weight of their structures.
Exactly. And their influence on architecture is still visible today. We see Greek columns incorporated into everything from government buildings and courthouses to libraries, museums, and even private homes. They represent a timeless aesthetic that continues to inspire architects and designers.
It's like they captured a sense of balance and harmony in their designs that transcends time and culture. And it wasn't just columns, right? The Greeks developed innovative architectural concepts that shaped the design of entire cities.
You're absolutely right. They created stoas-covered walkways that provided shade and shelter, gymnasiums that served as centers for physical and intellectual development, semicircular theaters designed for optimal acoustics and audience engagement, and rectangular stadiums for athletic competitions. These architectural innovations born in ancient Greece are still foundational elements of urban design today.
It's incredible how their legacy continues to shape the spaces we inhabit and the ways we experience our cities. Okay, let's talk about another area where the Greeks excelled: sculpture. I've always been in awe of the lifelike detail and expressiveness of their statues. What set Greek sculpture apart from the work of other ancient civilizations?
Greek sculpture stands out for its dynamism and its focus on capturing the human form in all its complexity. Before the Greeks, other cultures depicted the human form in a more rigid, stylized manner. But Greek sculptors aimed for realism, capturing movement, emotion, and even imperfection in stone.
So they were striving to breathe life into their sculptures to make them seem almost human. How did their approach to sculpture evolve over time?
You can see a clear evolution in their style and technique. Early archaic period sculptures, dating back to the 7th century BC, had a more rigid, stylized appearance. But over time, they moved towards greater naturalism. The figures became more relaxed, their poses more dynamic, and their faces more expressive. By the classical period, Greek sculptures were incredibly lifelike, their figures seemingly about to step off their pedestals and into the world.
It's like they were pushing the boundaries of what was possible with stone, using it to create art that seemed to defy gravity and time.
Exactly. And this evolution was driven by their fascination with proportion poise and the idealized human body. Their sculptures reflected their cultural values, their philosophical ideas, and their understanding of beauty and perfection.
Their sculptures were more than just art. They were reflections of their worldview, and their influence on Western art has been profound.
Absolutely. Roman art was heavily influenced by Greek sculpture, and the Renaissance, with its rediscovery of classical art, drew inspiration from the Greeks' mastery of form and human anatomy. Countless sculptors throughout history have been influenced by the Greeks' approach to capturing the essence of the human figure.
It's incredible to think that those ancient Greek sculptures continue to inspire and influence artists today. Now let's circle back to democracy, but this time let's delve deeper into the concept of direct citizen participation in government. What were the Greeks' views on this?
The Greeks, particularly the Athenians, believed that ordinary citizens should have a direct say in how they were governed. They viewed democracy as more than just a system of voting. It was a way of life, a set of values that emphasized civic engagement, active participation, and collective decision-making.
So it wasn't just about casting a ballot every few years. It was about being actively involved in shaping your community and your society.
Exactly. And they put this belief into practice through their institutions like the Athenian Assembly, where citizens could directly propose laws, debate issues, and vote on policies. They believed that the best way to ensure a just and equitable society was to empower citizens to take an active role in their governance.
It's a powerful ideal, and it's one that's continued to inspire democratic movements throughout history. But as we discussed earlier, even Athenian democracy had its limitations. Who was excluded from this system of citizen participation?
It's crucial to remember that Athenian democracy, while groundbreaking, was far from inclusive. Citizenship was restricted to free males over 18, which meant that women slaves and foreigners were excluded from political participation.
That's a significant limitation. It's a reminder that even the most progressive societies can harbor deep inequalities, and that the fight for democracy and equality is an ongoing process.
You're absolutely right. It's essential to view historical events and systems within their specific contexts, acknowledging both their achievements and their limitations. And it's also important to recognize that the struggle for a more inclusive and just democracy continues today.
Yeah, let's shift our focus to engineering, a field where the Romans are often celebrated. But the Greeks made significant contributions as well.
They certainly did. The Greeks may not have built roads and aqueducts on the same scale as the Romans, but they possessed incredible engineering skills and ingenuity. They used systems of block and tackle winches and cranes to move those massive marble blocks for their temples and city walls.
It's mind-boggling to think how they accomplished such feats without modern technology.
It speaks to their problem-solving skills and their understanding of basic mechanical principles. They were also skilled tunnel builders, as evidenced by the kilometer-long tunnel in Samos built in the 6th century BC, and they developed innovative aqueduct systems to bring water to their cities.
It sounds like they were tackling large-scale engineering projects with remarkable success. But what about their smaller-scale inventions?
They were just as inventive on a smaller scale. While the legendary figure of Daedalus, the architect of King Minos's labyrinth, might be more myth than man, the stories surrounding him reflect the Greeks' fascination with mechanics and their desire to create ingenious devices.
Daedalus. He's such a captivating figure, blurring the lines between myth and reality. What are some of the inventions attributed to him?
Daedalus is credited with creating lifelike automata mechanical birds that could fly, and even a labyrinth so complex that no one could escape. While these inventions might be more legend than historical fact, they speak to the Greek spirit of innovation and their fascination with the possibilities of mechanics.
It's like they were already dreaming of robots and artificial intelligence centuries ago.
You could say that. And their actual inventions were no less impressive. They developed portable sundials for timekeeping water alarm clocks to ensure they woke up on time, anemiscopes to measure wind direction, hydraulic organs that used water pressure to create music odometers to measure distance, battering rams to breach fortifications, and even flamethrowers to unleash fiery destruction upon their enemies.
Flamethrowers. That's not what I expected to hear on a list of ancient Greek inventions.
It's a reminder that their ingenuity wasn't always directed towards peaceful purposes. They were fierce warriors as well, and they applied their inventiveness to developing weapons that could give them an edge in battle.
It's incredible how diverse and creative their inventions were. Now let's shift gears to a field where the Greeks made groundbreaking contributions: mathematics. I know they were particularly fascinated by geometry and mathematical reasoning.
Absolutely. What set the Greeks apart in mathematics was their approach. They weren't just interested in solving practical problems. They were driven by a desire to understand the underlying principles and to develop rigorous systems of logical reasoning. For them, math was more than just a tool. It was a way of thinking, a way of understanding the universe.
So they were pushing beyond the practical applications of math and delving into the realm of abstract thought.
Exactly. They were pioneers in developing deductive reasoning, a system of logic where conclusions are reached through a series of carefully constructed statements. This approach revolutionized mathematics and laid the groundwork for the development of more complex mathematical systems.
And they had some brilliant minds working on these
That they
problems.
did. Thales of Miletus, for example, is credited with accurately predicting a solar eclipse in 585 BC. He was also known for his skill in geometry, using his knowledge to calculate the height of the pyramids based on their shadows.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It shows how they were using math to solve real-world problems and to unlock the mysteries of the natural world.
And then there's Pythagoras, whose famous theorem about the relationship between the sides of a right triangle is still a cornerstone of geometry today. His work, and that of other Greek mathematicians, has had an enduring impact on our understanding of mathematics and its applications.
It's mind-blowing to think that these ancient thinkers developed ideas that are still so fundamental to our understanding of math today.
It speaks to the enduring power of human intellect and the universality of mathematical principles. The Greeks' contributions to mathematics have shaped our understanding of the world and continue to influence scientific and technological advancements today.
Now, we can't talk about ancient Greece without discussing their approach to medicine. I know their views on health and healing were quite different from ours today.
They were. Early on, they viewed illness as a form of divine punishment. But around the 5th century BC, their understanding of medicine began to shift towards a more scientific approach.
So they moved away from superstition and towards observation and experimentation.
Exactly. They started to carefully observe symptoms, test different remedies, and document their findings. They also recognized the importance of diet, lifestyle, and the individual's constitution in maintaining health and treating illness.
It sounds like they were laying the groundwork for personalized medicine centuries ago.
You could say that. And they made some significant advancements in their understanding of the human body. Through careful observation of wounded soldiers and eventually through dissection, they began to grasp the workings of human anatomy and physiology.
So they were piecing together a more complete picture of how the human body functions. What were some of the specific medical practices they developed?
They discovered the medicinal properties of various plants and substances. They used celery for inflammation, egg white for sealing wounds, and opium for pain relief and anesthesia. Of course, their understanding of medicine was still limited, and they continued to rely on some practices rooted in superstition. But they had embarked on the journey of medical inquiry, and their contributions would influence the development of Western medicine for centuries to come.
It's a reminder. It's a reminder that scientific progress is a journey with both breakthroughs and setbacks along the way. But the Greeks' willingness to question, to observe, and to experiment paved the way for the incredible advancements we've seen in medicine. Okay, let's end our exploration of ancient Greek innovations with something that always gets me excited: the Olympic Games. It's amazing to think that this global sporting event, a symbol of international cooperation and athletic achievement, has its roots in ancient Greece.
It's a remarkable legacy. While the Minoans and Mycenaeans likely held sporting competitions, it was in archaic Greece that the Olympic Games as we know them took shape. The first Olympics were held in Olympia in 776 BC to honor Zeus, the king of the gods. Every 4 years, athletes and spectators would journey from across the Greek world to participate in these games, which were as much a religious festival as they were an athletic competition.
So it wasn't just about winning medals, it was a celebration of their culture and their beliefs. How long did these ancient games continue?
For an incredible 293 consecutive Olympiads until 393 AD, the ancient Olympics brought the Greek world together. And it wasn't just about the games themselves. One of the most remarkable aspects of the ancient Olympics was the Olympic truce, a period of peace that was observed throughout the games, allowing athletes and spectators to travel safely, even during times of war.
It's inspiring to think that even in a world often consumed by conflict, they recognize the importance of setting aside their differences to celebrate something bigger than themselves. What kind of events were featured in these ancient games? Did they have all the same sports we have today?
The ancient Olympics started with just one event, the Stadion foot race, a sprint of about 200 meters. But over time, the games expanded to include longer races, discus and javelin thrown boxing, wrestling, the pentathlon, a combination of 5 events, and even chariot racing. It was a spectacle of athletic prowess, strategy, and endurance, showcasing the human body at its peak.
It sounds like a thrilling spectacle. Did they have rules and judges like we do today? And what were the prizes for the victors?
They did have judges to oversee the events and ensure fair play, and penalties were imposed for those who broke the rules. But unlike today's Olympics, where athletes compete for medals and lucrative endorsements, the ancient Olympic victors received simple olive wreaths, symbols of victory and honor. They were celebrated as heroes, their names etched in history, their feats immortalized in poetry and song.
Talk about achieving true glory. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest rewards can hold the most profound meaning. Okay, we've talked about their love of athletics and competition, but we can't leave ancient Greece without discussing one of their greatest contributions to human thought philosophy.
Philosophy was at the heart of ancient Greek culture. They were driven by an insatiable curiosity about the world and a desire to understand the fundamental nature of reality, knowledge, morality, and the human condition. Their philosophers were not just thinkers, they were also scientists, mathematicians, and political theorists, seeking to apply reason and logic to every aspect of life.
It's like they were constantly questioning, exploring, and seeking deeper meaning in everything they encountered. What were some of the major schools of thought that emerged in ancient Greece?
Ancient Greek philosophy was a vibrant and diverse landscape of ideas. Some of the most influential schools of thought included Stoicism, which emphasized virtue reason and living in accordance with nature, Epicureanism, which sought happiness through pleasure and the avoidance of pain, and Platonism, which focused on the pursuit of abstract, eternal truths.
So they were grappling with some of the same questions we still ponder today. How to live a good life? What's the nature of happiness and what is the meaning of it all?
Exactly. And their ideas continue to resonate with us today because they addressed timeless human concerns. Their philosophical inquiries laid the groundwork for Western thought, influencing everything from ethics and politics to science and religion.
It's incredible to think that these ideas debated centuries ago are still shaping our understanding of the world and ourselves. Okay, we've talked about the Greeks' incredible contributions to philosophy, but we can't forget about their advancements on science and astronomy. They were real pioneers in these fields.
Absolutely driven by their desire to understand the natural world. Ancient Greek scientists and astronomers made groundbreaking discoveries that revolutionized our understanding of the cosmos. They weren't afraid to challenge conventional wisdom and to propose radical theories, even if those theories contradicted religious beliefs or long-held assumptions.
That takes courage. It's so easy to cling to established beliefs, even when evidence suggests otherwise. What were some of the most revolutionary ideas they put forth?
Some of their most groundbreaking theories included the concept of a spherical Earth, a heliocentric model of the solar system with the sun at the center, the idea that the Milky Way is composed of countless stars, and even the notion that life on Earth evolved from simpler forms. These ideas, while not universally accepted at the time, laid the groundwork for scientific revolutions to come.
It's incredible to think how far ahead of their time they were in their thinking. Who were some of the key figures who advanced these scientific and astronomical ideas?
Archimedes, known for his discoveries in mathematics, physics, and engineering, famously exclaimed, "Eureka! I have found it," when he discovered the principle of buoyancy. Aristotle, a polymath whose work spanned philosophy, logic, biology, and physics, developed a system for classifying living organisms and made observations about the natural world that influenced scientific thought for centuries. And Eratosthenes, a mathematician and astronomer, calculated the Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy using only shadows and geometry.
It's inspiring to think about the power of human intellect and the drive to unlock the secrets of the universe. Okay, let's end our exploration of ancient Greece with a return to the world of theater, where they truly excelled in the art of storytelling. We've talked about the emergence of tragedy and comedy, but I'm curious about how these theatrical performances evolved. What were those early theaters like?
Imagine sitting in an open-air theater carved into a hillside, surrounded by thousands of your fellow citizens, the sun setting over the Aegean Sea, as you witness a powerful story unfold on stage that was the essence of Greek theater. Their theaters were not just buildings, they were spaces that fostered a sense of community ritual and shared experience.
It sounds magical. It's like they understood the power of gathering people together to share stories and emotions.
They did. These theaters were open to all citizens, rich and poor alike, creating a truly democratic form of entertainment. And the plays they performed were not just diversions, they were reflections of their culture, their values, and their understanding of the human condition.
So theater was more than just entertainment. It was a way for them to explore their beliefs, their fears, their hopes, and their place in the world.
Absolutely. And the plays themselves were innovative and complex tragedies, like those written by Sophocles and Euripides, explored the depths of human suffering, the complexities of fate, and the consequences of hubris. Comedies, like those by Aristophanes, use satire and humor to critique society, poke fun at politicians, and explore the absurdities of human behavior.
So they were using theater to entertain, to educate, and to challenge their audiences. What were some of the key elements that made Greek theater so unique and influential?
The use of masks, allowing actors to portray multiple characters and to convey emotions more dramatically, was a defining feature of Greek theater. The chorus, a group of performers who narrated the story, commented on the action, and provided a musical backdrop, added a layer of complexity and depth to the performances and the themes they explored. Love loss, betrayal, revenge, the struggle against fate. These are timeless themes that continue to resonate with audiences today.
It's incredible how many elements of Greek theater have endured for centuries, influencing theatrical traditions around the world.
It's a testament to their innovation, their storytelling prowess, and their understanding of human nature.
Okay, we've covered an incredible amount of ground today, from democracy and philosophy to engineering and the arts. It's clear that the ancient Greeks left behind a remarkable legacy, one that continues to shape our world in countless ways.
It's truly inspiring to see how much they achieved and how their ideas continue to resonate with us today.
You're right. And speaking of enduring legacies, we have one final fascinating topic to explore: the city of Troy.
Oh, Troy. The city of myth and legend, immortalized by Homer in the Iliad. It's a story that has captivated imaginations for centuries. But Troy was more than just a figment of poetic imagination. It was a real place, a city with a rich and complex history, a city that played a crucial role in shaping the narrative of ancient Greece.
Okay, we've talked about ancient Greece and their incredible innovations, but we have one final fascinating topic to explore: the city of Troy. It's a city shrouded in myth and legend, but it was also a real place with a rich and complex history. And its connection to ancient Greece is at the heart of some of the most enduring stories ever told.
It's incredible to think that Troy, a city we often associate with epic poems and Hollywood movies, was a real place. And what's even more fascinating is that its history spans over 4,000 years, making it a crucial window into the ancient world.
Okay, so we know Troy was a real city located in modern-day Turkey, and it's one of the most famous archaeological sites in the world. But what do we know about its history, and how does it connect to the story of ancient Greece?
Well, the story of Troy is deeply intertwined with the story of ancient Greece, particularly through the epic poems of Homer, the Iliad, and the Odyssey. These poems, though written centuries after the events they depict, tell the story of the Trojan War, a legendary conflict between the Greeks and the Trojans.
Ah, the Trojan War. That's the one with the Trojan horse, right?
Exactly. It's a tale of love, betrayal, warfare, and ultimately the fall of a great city. But before we get to the war itself, let's take a step back and explore the history of Troy and its significance in the ancient world.
Perfect. Let's set the stage for this epic tale.
Okay, so Troy was located in what is now northwestern Turkey, near the entrance to the Dardanelles, a narrow strait connecting the Aegean Sea to the Sea of Marmara.
Ah, the Dardanelles. That's a strategically important waterway even today.
Exactly. Controlling the Dardanelles meant controlling access to the Black Sea and the riches that flowed through it. Troy's location made it a crucial hub for trade and a prime target for conquest.
So it was a city at the crossroads of civilizations, a melting pot of cultures and influences.
Exactly. And its history spans millennia with evidence of human settlement dating back to the early Bronze Age around 3000 BC.
Wow, that's over 5,000 years ago. So we're talking about a city with a very long and layered history.
Absolutely. And archaeological excavations have revealed multiple layers of Troy, each representing a different period of occupation, each with its own stories to tell.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, revealing the secrets of a lost world.
Exactly. And these layers tell a fascinating story of a city that rose to prominence, faced numerous challenges, and ultimately met a dramatic end.
So let's talk about those different layers of Troy. What have archaeologists learned about the city's evolution over time?
Okay, so archaeologists have identified 9 main layers of Troy, each representing a distinct phase of the city's history. Troy, the earliest layer dates back to the early Bronze Age, around 3000 BC. It was a small settlement, but it already showed signs of sophisticated craftsmanship and trade connections.
So even in its earliest stages, Troy was connected to the wider world.
Exactly, and over the centuries, Troy grew in size and importance. Troy II, dating from around 2600 to 2300 BC, was a much larger and more prosperous city with evidence of monumental architecture and extensive trade networks.
It sounds like Troy was thriving during this period.
It was, and it was during this period that Troy II was destroyed by a massive fire, which is believed to be the event that inspired the legend of the Trojan War.
Oh, wow, so there's a real historical event behind the myth.
Exactly. Of course, the legend has been embellished and romanticized over time, but the destruction of Troy II by fire is a real historical event that likely served as the inspiration for the Trojan War story.
It's amazing how myth and history intertwined.
It really is, and it's one of the things that makes the story of Troy so captivating.
So let's fast forward to the period that most people associate with the Trojan War, the Late Bronze Age, around 1300 to 1200 BC. Yeah. This is the period that Homer's Iliad focuses on, right?
Exactly, and the archaeological evidence from Troy VI and Troy VIII aligns with this period. Troy VI, dating from around 1700 to 1300 BC, was a large and well-fortified city with massive walls, gates, and towers.
So it was a city prepared for war.
It was, and it was during this period that Troy likely faced its greatest challenge, the legendary Trojan War.
Okay, let's finally delve into the story of the Trojan War. It all started with a woman, right?
You're right, Helen. The wife of Menelaus, the king of Sparta, was abducted by Paris, a prince of Troy. This act of abduction sparked a conflict that would engulf the entire Greek world.
So it was a love story gone wrong with epic consequences.
Exactly. Menelaus, outraged by the abduction of his wife, called upon his brother Agamemnon, the king of Mycenae, to assemble a vast army to sail to Troy and reclaim Helen.
And so began the Trojan War, a conflict that would last for 10 long years.
It was a brutal and bloody conflict filled with legendary heroes, epic battles, and tragic losses on both sides.
And at the heart of it all was the city of Troy, a city that would become a symbol of both beauty and destruction.
Exactly. Troy, with its massive walls and its strategic location, was a formidable fortress. The Greeks laid siege to the city for 10 long years, unable to breach its defenses.
And then came the Trojan horse, one of the most famous military strategies in history.
It was a brilliant and cunning plan, the Greeks pretending to abandon the siege, left behind a massive wooden horse as a supposed offering to the gods.
But it was a trick, wasn't it?
The horse was hollow, and hidden inside were a select group of Greek warriors. The Trojans, believing the horse to be a gift, pulled it inside their city walls, sealing their own fate.
That's incredible. It's a tale of deception and cunning that has captivated audiences for centuries.
Absolutely, and it's a reminder that warfare is often won as much by strategy and deception as by brute force.
So what happened after the Trojans brought the horse inside their city walls?
Under the cover of darkness, the Greek warriors hidden inside the horse emerged and opened the city gates, allowing the rest of the Greek army to storm the city.
And so after 10 long years of siege, Troy finally fell to the Greeks.
It was a decisive victory for the Greeks, but it came at a great cost. The city was sacked and burned, and countless lives were lost on both sides.
It's a tragic end to a legendary story.
It is, but the story of Troy doesn't end there. Its legacy lived on in the stories, poems, and plays that were passed down through generations.
Right. Homer's Iliad and Odyssey are just two of the many works of literature that have been inspired by the Trojan War.
Exactly, the story of Troy, with its themes of love, war, fate, and the human condition, has resonated with audiences for centuries, inspiring countless works of art, literature, and scholarship.
And the archaeological evidence continues to shed new light on this legendary city, revealing its complexities and challenging our understanding of the past.
Absolutely. The story of Troy is a reminder that myth and history are often intertwined, and that the past continues to shape our present in profound ways.
Okay. I think we've covered the city of Troy in pretty good detail. Let's transition to our final thoughts about these amazing ancient cultures. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the heights of ancient Greek civilization to the legendary city of Troy. It's been an incredible journey through time, exploring the innovations, the ideas, and the legacies that continue to shape our world.
It's been a privilege to share this journey with you, and I think it's safe to say that we've barely scratched the surface of these fascinating civilizations. There's so much more to discover, so much more to learn.
You're absolutely right. History is an ongoing process of discovery and interpretation. And as we continue to explore the past, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. It's amazing how these civilizations, though long gone, continue to shape our world today. We've talked about their innovations, their art, their political systems. It's clear their impact is still felt.
Mhm.
But I think one of the most powerful takeaways for me is the sheer scale of their achievements, considering the limited technology they had.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it, if these civilizations could achieve so much with the tools and knowledge available to them. What does that say about human potential and ingenuity?
It's a humbling thought, isn't it? It makes you appreciate the power of human curiosity, creativity, and determination. They didn't have smartphones or the internet. They had to rely on their own observations, their own reasoning, and their own hands to build these incredible civilizations.
It challenges our assumptions about progress, doesn't it? Like,
Mhm.
we often think of progress as like a linear upward trajectory driven by technology, but the ancient Greeks and Romans remind us that progress can also be about ideas about social structures, about
Right.
artistic expression. It's about pushing the boundaries of human potential regardless of the tools at your disposal.
That's a fantastic point. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into ancient Greece and Rome, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought to ponder if these civilizations achieved so much with limited technology. What does that say about our own possibilities?
It's a question worth reflecting on. What are we capable of achieving with the incredible resources and knowledge we have access to today? What kind of legacy will we leave behind for future generations?
It's both exciting and daunting, isn't it? We have the potential to achieve great things, to solve complex problems, and to create a better world. But it also comes with a responsibility to use our knowledge and our power wisely.
Absolutely. The ancient Greeks and Romans remind us that human potential is limitless. But they also teach us valuable lessons about the consequences of hubris, greed, and unchecked ambition.
It's a reminder that progress isn't just about technological advancements. It's about moral progress as well. It's about using our knowledge and our power to create a more just, equitable, and sustainable world.
Well said. And it's a journey we must all embark on together, learning from the past, engaging with the present, and shaping a better future for all.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of ancient Greece and Rome. We hope you've enjoyed exploring these fascinating civilizations and that you'll continue to learn from their legacies. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of your own understanding.